Successful Minds with Patricia Baronowski-Schneider, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. Successful Minds with Patricia Baronowski-Schneider is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Patricia Baronowski-Schneider.
Hello and welcome back to Successful Minds. I'm your host, Patty Baronowski-Schneider. Today I'm joined by Mustafa Ammar, founder of the Passion MBA and a certified success coach. So welcome, Mustafa. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much, Patricia. Appreciate it. My life story is a bit of living different lives, if I could say.
Yes.
I lived several career lives. I could say I shape-shifted a few times. My first career was pharmacy. I wanted to be a pharmacist out of passion for chemistry. Somehow when I graduated, I knew somehow that pharmacy wasn't for me for a lifetime. And I decided to move on to a new career. So I dig deeper inside myself. I found diplomacy. That was my second career. I took 3.5 years while working as a pharmacist, trying to prepare myself to be a diplomat. Diplomacy was somehow one of the longest careers. The second life, I enjoyed it so much. I get to work in different places. I work in the UN in New York. I work in Africa. I work in China. And somehow in China, I thought after 10 years of diplomacy, I reached the peak of my career and I needed to move on again. I found another challenge was investment banking. So I moved to a multinational bank, was headquartered in China, where I was in charge of business development in infrastructure project across the whole map. So I was taking care of projects from Latin America all the way to Africa to Asia. Was very exciting for me. It was a new challenge. I started, going up again and learning more. And I decided to do an MBA during that time. So I was doing while full-time job, I was doing my MBA in the UK. I thought I was doing it to grow more in my career, but somehow, you're knocking on different doors, you're exploring different possibilities. And I decided to start my fourth life. My fourth life was a bit challenging because I wanted to be that entrepreneur that I dream at that time to be. I thought the best way to start this is to coach other people while I learn in my life, reinventing my career a few times successfully. Somehow the last 4 or 5 years, I've been doing that, hundreds of people. Luckily, I had an impact on them and their lives. And now I'm moving to my fifth life.
Wow. You definitely have an amazing story. And it is so much better to learn from somebody who's been there, done that, because you can read about everything in a book. And I always admired people too, like when I went to school, who they would say, when I grow up, I want to be a doctor, or when I grow up, I want to be a lawyer. And I'm like, oh my God, like people always say, how did I get into doing what I do? It was a job out of school. I actually like the pace of it. I like the tenacity of the worker. So that's kind of how I grew into it. But I've known many people, like one person was a lawyer, as you know, going through the bar and all of the schooling, only to get that position and realize it's not really me. And then you change to something. So, people are afraid. So many people spend their lifetime in jobs that they're not happy. It's a paycheck. Exactly. But, life's too short to not be happy. So it's great when they have someone like you who could say, it's okay. You can still change. I mean, what was it? Colonel Sanders from KFC Chicken. He had a Social Security check. He was an old man when he finally started KFC. It's never too late.
It was late 60s or 70s.
Yeah, definitely. I look up to those people, Now,
and that's more enjoyable life. I think human beings, we are not created to live like, if I could say, ants and bees, specialize in the same task every single day. You get bored after doing the same thing 5 years. I think longer than 5 years, you get bored. Yeah. And the magic and the genius in each one of us, when you have enough dots to connect,
Right.
and you are somewhere in the middle, trying to get your past experiences, linking things together and looking for a better future.
Right. But even with what you're doing, I mean, with such a diverse background, I mean, you have skills in every which way that it's definitely has to complement one another through the process. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So speaking of your diverse career journey, what was a pivotal moment that led you from pharmacy to international diplomacy and then to the investment banking?
Well, I will go back a bit, when you are 15, 16 and you have to make I think the biggest decision of your life, right? You have to stick to one specialization all your life. And then you have everybody around you is advising you, like stick, be a doctor or be an investment banker or whatever it is. And I had many dreams. When I was 5, 6 years old, I was dreaming of having 5 or 6 professions. Like when my family used to ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? Yeah, I was dreaming of many things. I would say, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a football player. I want to be, an engineer, like 5, 6 things. And every time their answer was making me sad because, you have to stick to one,
Right.
So I was trying to stick to one and conform with what they told me in the beginning, until I was 16. And when I was 16, it was the time to decide, and it was very difficult for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to make it easier for me, and easier in a sense of just choose the passion that you have right now.
Right.
And the passion I had that time was chemistry. I loved chemistry at that time. And I thought, okay, go study chemistry for 5 years and let's see what will happen after that.
Right.
I found out that pharmacy has all types of chemistry, including, and 2 other types of chemistry that are not in any other specialization. And I just decided to do it. Whether I wanted to be a pharmacist for a lifetime or not, I didn't have a clue, but I say, okay, study something that you love.
Right.
I did this for 5 years, and I still remember the last semester before graduation, I started getting back to my old dreams. Do I really want to be a pharmacist or not? I had to think a lot. And I decided, no, once I graduate, yes, I will find a job as a pharmacist, but no way I want to be there forever. I remember, I think the first or second job interview, my boss at that time asked me, where do you want to see yourself 5 years from now? And I told him, I want to be a diplomat. I was like,
sure that went over well.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Luckily, he didn't hear me, and somebody was there and said, "Stop! Don't say."
Everybody will hire you at that rate, right?
Exactly. But yeah, I had to dig deeper again, and that was very tough. Imagine you're starting your career, you have all the aspirations, you have, a lot of dreams, and you want to leave your job and start a new career in something that you don't know anything about. Like, you want to be a diplomat. Okay, I study chemistry, pharmacy.
Yeah, you
what
go
should
from
I
one
know?
extreme to the other. I mean, some people will be kind of in the similar field, just different position. You just go to the extremes.
Yeah. So first, I think I had to spend a bit of time on myself, making sure that this would be the right decision. It wasn't easy because if this is my dream, like I would rather fight for it. And if I know that I have to fight for it, I really have to make sure that this is a destiny or another passion or there is a purpose in my life for it. So I think I spent a bit of time, I think 9 months or so, trying to decide, whether this is for me or not. I learned early in my life that when you take those big decisions, you really have to be in a high spiritual status, if I could say.
Right.
And I waited for that moment. As Muslim, we have a fasting month of Ramadan, and I know during fasting, you're empty, your stomach is empty, and you have a bit of focus spiritually. So I waited for that month, and I think I was ready. by the end of the month, I think, okay, I know this is for me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fight for it. It wasn't easy because almost 99.9% of people around you are questioning what you're doing. Sometimes people are very pushy, they say something like, you're silly, you're stupid, you're wasting your time.
Right.
Look at people around you, they're, was tough. But I had to listen to,
Yourself,
to my
yeah.
heart
Yeah.
and see it. Luckily enough, after 3 years and a half of, working as a pharmacist while preparing myself, I managed to do it. It's a national competition back home in Egypt. You have almost every couple of years 2,000 contestants. At the end, you're gonna take 20 or 30.
Wow.
So it wasn't easy at all, but
You
when I
obviously
did
like
it,
a challenge.
exactly, yeah, a bit of a big challenge. And when I did it, I was so proud. I was like,
You
okay,
should be.
yeah. There's something that you can prove at least to yourself.
Yeah.
That you had a dream and realize it, and then also to other people who were
Yeah.
questioning that.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then my life change in diplomacy was a whole new life.
Yeah, I'm
Which
sure.
also,
Wow. So now, having the varied cultural experiences from living in so many different countries, how has it shaped your approach to success or coaching?
yeah, that was very essential for me because I was also lucky growing up. I never grew back in home. Never grew up back in Egypt. My dad used to work in government, so he used to travel a lot. And that helped me a lot to see things from a bigger perspective, from not only seeing things from your very narrow-minded perspective, where whatever it is, a culture or a country or whatever. And that actually makes me enjoying the fact that I want to keep traveling all the time.
Nice.
And it supported my decision, informed my decision when I wanted to be a diplomat. Is like, this is the kind of life that I want to live. I want to live traveling the world, learning other languages, helping others to know about my culture, learning about other cultures, and getting to bridge, if I could say, the gaps between different cultures, religions, whatever. And I enjoyed that so much because you could see life from different perspective, and you see the blind spot in both sides, and then bringing that together. I would just give an example. In the commercial life, I negotiated dozens of deals when I was at the embassy, when I was in UN, when I was in China, and then when I work in banking. And most of those negotiations were cross-culture. And when it's cross cultures, unless you know a bit about both cultures or the context that you're in, it's very hard. And luckily enough, it helped me a lot to close a lot of deals.
Nice. Yeah, because I mean, everybody assumes everybody's just like you, and they're not. Everybody's different. Every culture is different. There's reasons why they do what they do and reasons why you do what you do. And if you don't understand, you might take it as an insult or as it's a failed deal, but it could just be that week, maybe it's, there's a lot to it. So yeah, I could see where that would be huge in business. Nice.
Exactly. Like the way I put it is like you put your glasses on and if you see all or the whole thing from your own perspective, your glasses, you are missing a lot. But the moment you take it off and put the other one, which is showing you what's happening on the other side, you get to know more about on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, and you can't rely on what you see on TV because that's not real.
100%. As a diplomat, as a former diplomat, I 100% agree with you. Yeah.
Now tell us, your book, Time to Move On, it addresses knowing when to quit and when to persist. So can you share a personal story about, I guess, a time you faced that decision?
Yeah, Time to Move On is the result of learning the hard way how to bust each one of those myths that I'm talking about in the book. It was hard because I always wanted to change, but then you have to conform to the society. You have to conform people around you, where people are telling you, for example, you are a pharmacist and now you want to be a diplomat, you would better spend all your life in pharmacy. Or, for example, it's too late to change. Like, okay, I was a diplomat and then I'm mid-level career. and somehow I want to move on to a new life, a new career, and somebody say, "Oh no, you cannot do that. You know, it's too late."
Yeah, you hear
It's
that a
too
lot.
late. And I kept moving without understanding that. Like I moved in life and in careers without understanding that all of these are myths, and you really should bust them. I will give an example. One of them is called the supreme specialist myth.
Okay.
So in order to succeed in life, you better stick to one career, right? Spend all your life there, get promoted, be the expert there, and don't ever think of changing, right? And learning the hard way after having 5 careers, this is a myth. This is a big myth. Again, back to the idea of we as human beings, we get bored very quickly from those robotic, repetitive tasks.
Right.
After 5 years doing the same thing, you're done with it. You really want to move on and look for another challenge. So I discuss that in detail, and I make sure that each reader, once they read it, they know, oh, this is a myth. I have to bust it right now. And there's no, if I could say, there's no benefit of staying in the same career forever. As long as I'm stuck, I feel bored and I want to move on.
Right.
And I keep talking about all of this. It's too late to change. So I give examples of people in their late 70s who are able to change at a different stage of their lives. And I give examples of people in their 20s and were not able to change. And I could see that the difference was always the mindset. That you can change it every single time you want.
Yeah, I mean, like we say, you only get one life. I mean, you want to be happy in it. You want to do something that you enjoy. And like I know somebody who's, mid-50s, has a job, has been very good, makes great money. She suffers migraines every single day. She just dreads going. She finally just walked in and quit. And everybody's like, oh my God, like, why would you? Everything was the money. Why would you quit? What's more important, money or your health? I mean, if it's, so what she's going to do now, I don't know, but she took that stand because it just gets to a point where like you just can't continue being unhappy, or killing yourself to make someone else rich.
Exactly 100%. And that applies to another myth, which is I have bills to pay. A lot of people I was talking to them is like, oh, it's good for you, but for me, I have bills to pay, I have responsibilities. But I always argue with people around this point is like, you're not here in life to pay your bills and die. You're here for something bigger than this. So while you're taking care of your responsibilities, try to expand, your horizons toward maybe what would come in the future.
Yeah, and like you said, you continued your pharmacy while you pursued the education for something else. You don't have to just quit cold turkey and say, well, gee, now what? You can do that, but look for another way to find happiness. I get it.
Exactly.
Now, with your extensive background, what's the most common career myth that you encountered, and how do you advise professionals to move past it?
Well, all the 7 myths are close to my heart, but I think one important one would be leaving your career is a sunk cost. So people spend energy, time, effort, money in building something in their life. And then after 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years, they leave easily. It's hard. I mean, getting stuck somewhere and not being able to move on in your life is very hard. But life taught me that when you move on in your life and your career, you move on with everything you have, your skills that you have, your expertise, your knowledge, everything is moving with you. It's like energy, energy keep preserved in different forms. The same applies to your skills and expertise. I will just give an example. It happened to me. My major was chemistry. So I studied chemistry for 5 years, specifically organic chemistry. Somehow after graduating, I thought, oh, this is a sunk cost. I wouldn't use chemistry anymore. until I traveled to China and I started learning Mandarin. So I learned for full time, 1 year to study Chinese. And to my surprise, reading and writing Chinese characters was so easy for me. I
Wow.
didn't know why. It was so weird. The challenge was in how to pronounce because there are 4 tones. So I
Right.
get 100% of my focus on the tones because it was so easy to read and write. Very easy for me. I didn't know why that was happening until I understood very interesting concept called analogical thinking. So the analogy that the whole organic chemistry is built on is that there's a certain logic. When you draw a compound, you start from left to right, from up to down. There are always endings in the compound, which means something. And in fact, the same logic exactly applies to Mandarin. When you write or draw a Chinese character, you start from left to right, from up to down. There are endings, which means whether a sound or a meaning.
Right.
So without knowing, it was so easy for me just because I took that analogy
Right.
and I apply it there. And this can go on and on whatever skill you have in your life. You can just move it on with you and you don't need to start from scratch.
Right.
So this is one of the most preferred one because I could see wherever you're moving, you can take everything with you.
Yeah. I mean, that is true, though. I mean, that's actually unique because I did try to learn Mandarin once upon a time and it was not easy. But forget about writing it. I was just trying to speak it. But yeah, I mean, but it is true. Like everything in life has a meaning. You might not know it today, but somewhere down the line, it'll come into play and, you'll be glad you had it. Yeah. Now, can you tell us about the Passion MBA and how it specifically aids professionals in finding their dream career?
Sure. I mean, the idea of an MBA is about having a generalized education in general. So when I decided to do an MBA, I just wanted to have a bit of understanding about finance, a bit about operation, a bit about marketing, private equity, venture capital. So it gives you a bit of generalized education. So the next step in your career would be easier if you want to get a bit of upskilling, you want to get a promotion or move on to a new industry. However, I think the big question that each MBA graduates would ask after their MBA program is like, wow, I learned a lot, but what next? So what's next was always the question. I think every single person in the MBA program was asking. And they keep asking that question for a couple of months without an answer. And then they go back to their normal life. So they go back exactly to the life that they had before the MBA. And I see that is a waste of money, effort, 2 years or 4 years of study. So that opened my mind to start answering that question for other people. Also for myself, because I was still in banking when I'm enjoying different things in life. I want to do this. And the answer was in my methodology, which when I went back to every single step during my career transitions and transformations, I found that there are always common theme in every move of these. And I just took all those repetitions and built on my methodology, which is help me in every single transition of these. It doesn't have to apply to any MBA student or MBA graduates. It just, how to say, is the answer to your career goals, if I could say. So I applied that on hundreds of professionals, and luckily every time it works because it's very practical. It dive deeper inside yourself. You get the answers from yourself, and you get to learn the skills to get you to the next level.
Wow. I mean, it's 100% true because in school, they're teaching you, they have their textbooks, they have their agenda, they're teaching you everything that's in this section, but it's not teaching you anything beyond that because it is true. Like, I remember even, getting my MBA. Half the classes I had to take just because you're required served no purpose in anything I'm doing. I don't know why I had to take it, but I took it. And you have no clue how, when it's all done, it's not helping you get a job. It's like, okay, you got this diploma, bye. Well, now what? Yeah. So you have to do a lot of soul searching yourself. Yeah.
Exactly. And it doesn't help if because I've seen a lot of people are looking at their MBA or in their degrees in general as like,
Right.
okay, how much pay raise I would get, you know? I don't think it correlates to that. I think that maybe the only thing I learned from my MBA is to discipline myself
Right.
and learn while I had a full-time demanding job. I
Right.
was working for 12 hours a day. I had to go back at 9 p.m., 10 p.m., and then start studying for my MBA.
Yeah.
My weekend was
Yeah.
for the MBA. So and then reading and keep reading and reading and reading and have that part of my day. And that I think was the winning theme for me, is like just disciplining yourself.
Right.
So if you can discipline yourself to get to your goal, that's the winning game.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, and I could only imagine a 12-hour day and all the schooling. I don't know how you did it.
Yeah, I look back at those days were quite tough, but then
They paid off.
when you realize that they passed, and then you learn a lot, you got your MBA luckily with distinction, and you did good at job, and then it transformed your life again, and it's good.
Look at all the stories you get to tell now. Now,
Thanks.
tell us, what are some key strategies you teach professionals to reinvent themselves when they feel stuck in the career?
Well, I think that the very essential step is to do a proper orientation. And what I mean by a proper orientation phase is to dig deeper inside themselves, as I said earlier. And I would just mention this analog because it's very essential, I think, for each one of us. Let's imagine that we are traveling together, maybe for, like, let's say from East Coast to West Coast. It would take us a few days. And I assume we need a few essential elements in that trip. Number one, enough gas for the car. Number two, we need a GPS with us. Number three, we need to know where are we heading, like what's the final destination or the final address that we need to get to. Without enough gas, we'll stop somewhere in the middle. We'll never get to our destination, right? Without a GPS, we'll get lost, I don't know, dozens, hundreds of times and on the way, and maybe, who knows, we're not able to get to our destination. And also, there is no benefit of having a GPS unless you have a final address, just to write down on GPS, know where are you heading. Let's apply this on our life or our career. Enough gas means enough passion. A lot of people don't have passion for whatever they're doing. And believe me, I see a lot of people who say like, oh, passion is for amateurs, it's not for experts, blah, blah, blah. Passion is essential. It's your fuel. It's what keeps you going on and moving on all the time, and working hard on what you're doing, because your passion is what's connecting you to a purpose in life. You know, it's something was planted in my heart to love it. I don't know why, but it keeps me moving on to maybe let's say satisfy a destiny, so realize something that would happen, or help others with something. Your GPS is your values. Your personal values are super important. A lot of people don't know enough about their values, and they work in careers or jobs that don't satisfy those values, and somehow they get lost. So speaking of your values, your values, if you don't satisfy your values, you get lost somewhere in the middle. I'll just give an example. Like, one of my biggest values is freedom. I didn't know that even my freedom was always part of my core values, that when you satisfy it, it gets higher and higher. The ceiling gets, expanded. And somehow when you don't satisfy those values, you get lost. The final destination is an ideal lifestyle, if I could say, like a dream lifestyle, where do you want to see yourself 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What type of revenue your business would have, or income your career would have, what kind of job you want to have, what kind of ideal working day, how you want to spend it, with whom, what's your ideal breakfast, I could say, where you want to live, what's your ideal weekend, how long it should be. So when you bring all these things together, knowing your passions, your top passions, knowing your core values, and having an ideal lifestyle, and bringing all of these together, and with your expertise, with your strength, with weaknesses, you can, let's say, build a map or a blueprint, as I call it. I call it the passion blueprint for the next career move. So a very essential step is the orientation. Once you do the orientation right, transformation comes in. And transformation, of course, needs a bit of time.
I mean, it is a work in progress, you know. I mean, it sounds like
Exactly.
it's so much, but it's a lot of soul searching. And I agree 100% because you have to have the passion to do what it is you want to do and not just what somebody tells you to do. Because if you're doing what the textbook said or what your parents said, you might do it, but when you're not happy, you might not do it great, because you can always tell, like same with a chef, someone who's just cooking because that's what they have to do, and someone who loves what they're doing. I mean, you could taste the difference in the food. I mean, and think about any aspect of your life, you know. Good
100%.
stuff. Now, as a success coach, what's the first step you suggest someone take when they want to pivot in their career but don't know where to start?
Well, I think the first thing is to start knowing their passions. And what I mean by knowing their passions, there are many ways to do so. Not every passion would be a future career or a future business. So many of them would be a hobby. But just getting to know the top 3 to 5 of your passions is a great first step. And I would say, for example, if one of my passions is about marketing, or I enjoy reading about marketing, for example, so I would go out and buy 3 best-selling books about marketing and just start exploring that passion, because you never know. There's some of these passions fade away if you go in a bit and then you say like, okay, I don't see myself in that career or in that. And then on the other side, some others, you get to dive deeper inside that passion and see, oh, wow, I'm enjoying that more. I'm fulfilled with that. I want to explore more. So that's the first step. I think first essential step is explore a couple of those passions and then get to spend a bit of time on them while you're doing what you're doing, having your career, having your job.
Yeah, I agree 100%, because even with like back in the day with interning, where you're kind of in a job, because you could think on the surface it's great, and then you go there and you realize all the nitty gritty that's involved. And you're like, oh my God, this is horrible. You know, even relationships. I mean, you could look at someone and be like, that's my future wife, but then you hang out with them and you're like, oh my God, she has these annoying habits. Like, you just have to really spend time and delve a little deeper into it to see, is this really what I want? And then if you do, you go for it, you know.
Exactly. And then of course there are other elements. You can go out and expand your network to that new career and ask people, interview them, expert in, let's say, in marketing again. Tell them, what would you enjoy about your job? You know, what are you enjoying every single day about your job? What you hate about your job? Ask questions in details. And get to build a bit of a bigger picture about that new career and explore yourself in that.
Yeah. I've had a couple people like from LinkedIn who are college students, and their thesis was on, you know, investor relations or public relations or marketing. And a few of them had said, can I interview you? And I've been doing this 35 years. I'm very candid. I just tell you point blank, this is, and they are so excited. They're like, oh my God, I've never had somebody just tell us like this. I said, because you want me to tell you what you want to hear, or you want me to tell you how it is? This is how it is. It's great, but there's a lot of stuff you have to go through, and you know, you need that. And that's why they say even having a mentor, it's somebody in the industry you want to be in. Talk to them, let them guide you, because they've been in that position. They can tell you, if this is your expectations, you're in the wrong field, because it's not how it goes. Nice. Now tell us, what's your philosophy on balancing passion with practicality in one's career?
Oh, well, passion is essential. And I think if you spend 100% of your day on your passions, whether they are hobbies or not, it's still a very efficient and effective day in terms of productivity. I would say, even if that passion is not a career, it doesn't lead to a career, spending a couple of hours on something that you just enjoy energize you to what you want to do, you know, keep helping you to fuel your passion. So I would say spend your day on 3 passions. If one of them is the major career or business, that's fine, and the other couples are not. Somehow you might be surprised that they might lead you to the next, business or career. So I think passions and practicality, they can, meet somewhere in the middle if you're able to.
Right. Yeah, and like you said, even just spending some time learning it, like what you said, it helped you in a totally other
Exactly.
field. So it's never going to hurt you.
Exactly. I mean, if I spend a couple of hours that could be a waste of time,
Right.
I don't consider that on a passion that I love and enjoy.
Right.
I get back to work very energized just because I enjoy doing something
Yeah.
that I like. So I would spend 24 hours of my day on my passions, even if they don't lead to.
I agree 100%. That's, again, life, you want to be happy in it,
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, you worked in infrastructure development at AIIB. So how do you apply your knowledge from that role to help individuals build infrastructure of their career paths?
Well, working in banking in general is a great experience. I came from diplomacy. I didn't have a finance background, and then I moved to infrastructure, and I had to act very fast because I went in, was working in investment department. We were in charge of the whole map. We were like working from China. But then we were investing in Latin America, we were investing in Africa, we were investing in Middle East. It wasn't easy, but I had to dig deeper inside my arsenal of strength and skills and bring them to the table and try to do things in a different way. And this is why I was in charge of business development, using my diplomatic skills, my communication skills, how to interact with government officials, because it was my thing. And in that world, you need to build good rapport and network with different governments. You get to the right person right away because there is no time all the time. And I remember we had some missions, like for example, I was in Beijing and I had to fly to Peru, to Lima in Peru, in a couple of days. And then we would spend, I think, 12, 13 days in Latin America, in three countries, Peru, Chile, Argentina. And I know nothing about the infrastructure space in Latin America, like almost nothing. So I'm going there for 12 days. By the end of them, I have to have a business development plan, like what types of projects that I want to invest in as a bank, which are the industries, who are the key players, everything. So in 2-3 days before the trip, I had to connect to the right guys, whether in Latin America or whether somewhere else that can connect me to Latin America, and start building those connections. And the moment I arrived there, I start meeting those people. So it was a work in progress. I learned how to do that. You don't need to have everything planned 1 year in advance. And I think that was a key success for me, at least in my career, is that always you can learn how to build those connections whenever you want, and act on the stage while you are running. So this was a key experience I learned.
I mean, some people, like I struggle with certain things, but when you're put in that spot, it's I forget the term. It's kind of like, this is it, make it happen. You definitely have the skill. Yeah.
And definitely I speak about this in Time to Move On in my book. Don't bother whether it's a strength or weakness for you, because as long as it's a passion, you can turn a weakness into a strength. And I mentioned communication has been always a weakness for me. Being a very shy, introvert kid was very tough for me to communicate. But then somehow,
you never know it now.
Exactly. Somehow, because I had a passion in diplomacy, I managed to build that and I learned a lot in that career. Then when I moved to banking, I could bring that strength with me. And then my boss in banking used to tell me, this is your strength, focus on it, business development. But he didn't know that was a weakness for me. And, just because you have a bit of passion in it, you could turn that weakness into strength. So also another key point is don't bother whether it's strength or not. If it's a passion, it will definitely turn your weakness into passion, into strength.
Wow. Well, you're definitely living proof of this, Nice.
Thanks.
Now, I guess tell us, what's the most important piece of advice that you'd give to someone looking to make a significant change in their professional life?
Well, I think there are a couple of pieces which I think they are connected. The first one is you don't have anything to lose. Whatever you're focusing on, whatever your dream is, you don't have anything to lose just pursuing that dream. Keep what you have, right? And start slowly, few steps ahead to get closer to where you are. And if you failed, if you didn't do it, you didn't lose. The second, actually, is not you didn't lose. Actually, if you win a lot because every experience really matters a lot. The second is you don't have anything to prove to anybody. I think this is very important because we are always trapped into that stereotype, how people are seeing us or, perceiving us. And you shouldn't care about any of this. As long as it's a dream for you, don't really care about anybody's opinion, including actually the loved ones. I mean, I have been through this. My parents in every single career move were always, and I understand why, but they were always against those career decisions. So how you make sure that you are on the right track, and then second, how you can convince them to be on your side.
Right.
And luckily, I went them 5 times in 5 career transitions. But I think those 2 pieces are super important. The first one, you don't have anything to lose when you are pursuing a career move, progression in your life or your career. The second, you don't have anything to prove to anybody.
Well, I think you've pretty much proven this to everybody, and I'm sure by now your parents won't even question anything you do anymore. But I mean, it's true because you're like living proof to anybody who's looking to make a significant change. I mean, you've not only done it once, twice, 3, you've done it 5 times. I mean, you're proving it can be done, Just have to be
I think
passionate.
practical experience is really important because also a very essential part of it is the empathy. So because if you don't go through it, you wouldn't feel that. You wouldn't feel all those emotional struggles that you have been through hundreds of times. And unless you understand that and you feel it and you go through it a couple of times, it's not easy to also show the others. First to feel what they feel and also to show them the path, how you can get over all of those. So I think empathy is very important.
No, I think that's a huge aspect in anything because like even with me, I started my job as a receptionist. I worked my way up the corporate ladder all the way through my whole master's degree. But I know a lot of people who went to college and just walked right into this high position. And, me, I knew I could tell you how to change toner on a copy. Like I did it all. So I know what's involved. I know what it takes. I know how it feels. I know like when someone says, I need this done in 10 minutes. I've been on the other side. I could tell you that's never going to happen. You need at least 45. Here's why, blah, blah, blah. But you can understand someone who's getting barked at. Like I used to go home. I worked 18-hour days. I had 2 kids. And I'm just like, I needed the job. It sucked, but it's, now being on the other side, I have compassion for so many people because I've been there. And that's why I love helping people because I'm like, if I could help you avoid half the pain and turmoil I went through, let me do that,
And this is what makes you a much better leader than others who never been through all those experiences, right?
Yeah, for sure.
With that empathy, you can build a huge and amazing team around you. For sure. Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Now, anything else you want to talk about that we didn't touch yet? Anything coming new or anything?
Thank you. So there's always, if I could say, a cause that is very close to my heart. I like to support orphanage causes. Since I was 14, 15, I always spiritually like to do that. And I learn a lot. The more I give to that cause, supporting orphans and their education, the more life gave me back. So I started by giving, part of my pocket money, and then life gave me back. And then in my careers, the more I gave, the more life gave me back. So now I'm starting a nonprofit, hopefully with the dream of helping 1 million orphan kids to dream big about their lives and their careers. Unfortunately, the society doesn't expect much from orphan kids. If you have an essential, basic education, you're not expected to prosper more in your career. Get a job and it's done. But hopefully, with that nonprofit, I want to help as many kids, orphan kids, to dream and dream big. And then the moment they found that dream, I want to help them to, realize that dream and achieve it. That's why, for example, every copy sold from Time to Move On there's $1 is going to hopefully help that cause. This is close to my heart, and I hopefully in 5-6 years we help 1 million kids.
That's awesome. It is true, because people, they have nothing to live for. They just feel I was just thrown away and here I am. And they're never giving any boost to say, no, you are important and here's why. And they don't care, because even, like I knew people who did the foster care system. It's a paycheck to them. They didn't care about the kids. It's a shame, and there are no expectations from these kids, like you say. And there's no hope for them, internally to say, I want to grow up and be something special, So I think what you're doing is awesome. That's amazing. Wow. Well, now, how can people contact you or learn more about you?
Thanks so much. So I'm active on LinkedIn as Mustafa Ammar. I'm also active on Instagram as the Passion MBA. Okay. My 2 websites were mustafaammar.com and thepassionmba.com.
Okay, and I'll include them all on here also.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again for being on the show. Again, that was Mustafa Ammar. So thanks for listening to Successful Minds with Patty B. Never miss an episode by subscribing to the channel. So thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Successful Minds with your host, Patricia Baronowski-Schneider. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we'll see you on the next episode.